I'm gonna work on some animation stuff for my space game. So I showed this in the last video. I added these little sun flares, solar flare spikes. Kind of simple effect. I don't know if I've gone over all the tricks and techniques that I used for the sun, but I do plan to try and make the swirling a bit better. Probably not today, but the sun is this massive series of nodes at the moment. I would like to make a blue one for my project because I do not have a blue one yet. And that will be a series of colors I have to figure out. I do have several colorizers in here. This one right here adds this kind of, I can't really explain what it is, kind of a darker reddish shading to it. The edges stay bright. There's another layer outside this weird little curve here, and in this final bubble there's another layer that gets added on top that makes it bright along the edges, so it gets darkened before it gets brighter. And so this is kind of just a filter that I can use. It's interesting to explain. It just takes a spherical gradient and applies a tone curve to make it into a sphere, just a nice circle, nice smooth circle. I can actually create a floating view and look up close. This is the size, the final size of my planet or sun, whatever I want to turn into this curvy shape. And then there's some other nodes in here that add some lighting effects. And then you get into this crazy web where everything starts going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And this is where the surface of the sun, the noise that makes up the surface, is generated. And it's kind of an approximation. I'm not a professional animator or anything, but I do like to mess around with animation stuff, so I've done a few things to kind of give it this warping, ripply effect, and you combine these all together to get that through this massive web. And there is a layer outside of here, this right here, containing all of my colors for the sun. So I'm using a series of colors that are found elsewhere. It kind of stores the colors from your palettes if you want them to, but I'd like to make a bluish sun, and I want to keep the contrast kind of similar. So if I can, I could just rotate this outside color wheel and leave the color values the same and just change the color. So I'm going to try starting with that, using like a darker blue for the very bottom. It's going to give me this dark patchy spots, and then sweep this around to a slightly lighter, darker blue. That'll fill in these gaps. Now the main color of my sun will probably be more like this kind of blue. Yeah. And then it's going to just get a little bit brighter than that over here. Slightly lighter. And I want to give it a nice light, kind of teal, aquamarine teal. Now it's really bright on the outsides, and there's still red and yellow being mixed into the color still, because I've got more layers blending into it. I don't even think this one gets colorized, but it does stay red. So I would like to change the color of this to a bluish color. So now instead of this red shade down here, I'll get a darker blue arc around the bottom. And let's back out. This color here, it's kind of a brownish, fits the tone of the yellow stars more. I could do something more akin to the blue stars. It won't look good unless it's darker. I do kind of want to leave this one in the lighter area. kind of like that. Gives it this blue glow around the edges. And then the final colorizer, I'll just change the same way. We'll just rotate this around. I kind of wanted a medium, a little bit lighter than that. I wonder if that's going to blend okay. Doesn't look like it wants to. Ooh. Ew. Am I doing a negative? So this is my backlighting, which makes it brighter around the edges. If I turn it blue, it gets dark, so I might actually be able to keep the backlighting the way it is, because it's not really messing up my sun color. And then there's these last yellowish gradients. I'll make them greenish, bluish. This will be a darker blue. It's harder to see the effect of this one, really. And keep that the way it is. I wonder if I change this at all. No. There's some blend modes that look better than others. I think I want to keep that as tint, though. Even additive wouldn't look great because it gets too bright. So, tint's actually okay. It keeps this little arc around the edge. Now, let's say that's enough for my blue sun here. That's kind of nice. And if I render it, I can render it to memory like this. I want it to be 512 by 512. And I want it to be, I think my suns are 40 frames at the moment. Just to keep things smooth. I could do 32. I think I'm doing 40 frame suns. And the stars in this are pretty big. They're probably the biggest next to the gas giants. And I think I've got them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18. I got 32 frame animations. Okay, well 32 is better than 40. It's slightly smaller. So I'll stick with 32 and pull up a test render here. Wiggly sun. That's a bit fast. Probably half that. Can't highlight right now. About 10. Even 12. It's probably going to be 10, but it looks a little bit different in game. I do have this kind of glare here that I don't really like too much, and I just have to track down which step is adding that glare. It's coming in here, so I can follow the web. It's getting added in this step right here, and I want that to not be so prominent. It's actually make it more bluish. I could even drag that up to kill that, but it leaves too much of that glare there, and if I drag it this way it gets big and ugly. So I kind of don't want it to be so bright. There we go. I don't want to get rid of it completely because it does add this extra little tiny piece. It's hard to see it there, but not what I want to do. So I'll re-render. I'm going to save that one out as my sun. Now, there's something I want to try as an experiment. First I want to save my sun. So I'll save this again as blue sun. Or animated blue sun. And if I go back and reopen another copy of my original sun, there's something I want to try with 001. I don't know if it's going to look the way I want it to, but ultimately I can do a colorized step to make it grayscale. And 001 has this built-in system where it can color gray or black and white images, but I haven't tried it with any of my planets or stars or suns. I'll just add a colorize. Let me see what that does to it. That makes it a bit much. I'll have to actually see what kind of values I'd want to include in this, because that's way too bright. So I'd want something in the middle. Let's go with 96, 96, 96. And drag this up a little bit. Put that at 2.5. That one right in the middle. It's still kind of too light anyway. Even if I have it set up as grayscale, it looks terrible. Oops. So I think I'd actually have to go through and color each step the way I would want them to be colored. So I'll get rid of that. Let's just get my blue sun here. I'm going to import it into 001. I'll just copy my existing yellow star and just change its name to blue 1. Right now I've just got this sequence or series of images. This is the animation sequence, basically a series of images that will play in order. And to break this down exactly, or the way to make it make sense, is the pose length is how many keyframes you have, and I don't need keyframes when I'm using this animation sequence. There are cases where that will come in handy, but not for this. So each of these has their own little time. Each frame has its own individual time, and you can change that up here with the frame time. So you could click on individual frame and make it longer than the others. So when it's playing, you'll actually see it stop for a second. So if you have animations that you want to do certain pauses in there, you can actually do that. I want all of them to be 0.1, so it plays at this speed. But I don't want these to be yellow. I gotta clear these out. And you can click and drag to highlight them all. And with these big 512 by 512 images, it does take a while sometimes, but I want to clear those and add a new set of image files. And the first thing I need to do is render out actually go back in here. I've already got this rendered out, so I can just save this as an image sequence. Go back over here to my D drive, pop into my animations folder, and I'm going to put a new one in here. Blue Sun. We'll drop that in there. Blue Sun 1. I'll go ahead and say Blue Sun 1 is the name, and fire. Pew! Now, back in 001, Game Creator, I want to go back into my animations folder here, grab Control A, Enter, and import all of my frames. Ba-dum-ba-da. We have what looks like 2 now, and that's because we are replacing the old one. This doesn't always happen, but it does sometimes happen, and what you want to do is you have 2 of these. The newer one is going to have its default node position set to 001's default node position. So if it ever does this, where you end up with 2 layers like this, there aren't actually 2 here, but it'll show up as 2 here. Delete the one that you just added, the one that has these set up already, because it'll just leave everything as it was previously. And we want to make sure that everything is facing X. And this is a weird little trick. When you're looking at different sides, face X is different when you're looking at it from different angles. So when you're looking at something from the top, face X is the left and right. You want it to face X, left and right, and you can actually see that in 3D. There's a difference. It'll always face upwards, because from top-down view, this is the x-axis, so it's rotating on the x-axis. But if you're in the side view and you tell it to face X, it's actually from the side. Surprise! That's a different X altogether, which is a little bit weird to understand at first, but the way you would fix that is just change the views here. If your game is in top-down, clicking on face X will orient it to top-down X, and that's all here, plus X, minus X1. I'm not very clear on these myself, but that's how I've always done it to orient it, and if you deselect it, it'll maintain that orientation regardless. Without that tick, it won't constantly rotate, but since we're in a top-down game, if you look at it from above, you have to adjust it from the top menu. If you're in a top-down game, having this deselected won't matter. It'll just always face upwards like that. Excuse me. So that is enough to produce this animation. Excuse me. I can turn off the lighting. Color unaffected because I won't be affecting colors using the built-in color layer system. And you can turn on smooth scaling if you want. I do sometimes. I think I have it turned on for most of my planets, or at least most of my sprites at the moment. Not all of them. Doesn't look great with interface elements sometimes, but it can help when you have like jaggies showing up when things are moving around. So I've got my basic blue planet here, or blue star, and that won't exactly fit with the flare animations that I've got right now, so I'm going to have to fix that or customize my flares to be a grayscale flare. So let me make a copy of my yellow giant here and swap its body sprite for my blue star. So now we have a blue guy. It's pretty similar. Did I turn on smooth scaling for both of y'all? I think I did. Yes, I did. I'll turn off the lighting on that one too, so I don't need lighting affected. Alright, so this one doesn't look as great because it doesn't have any of its halo, any atmosphere, none of that. But if I add the sun halo to it, that's the wrong color. It's set up to be yellow. You can change the colors of those with the layer color, so I can get my nice blue halo. It's giving me this cool green effect, and since my halo is actually part of this layer, they're coming out green, and that's actually because it's mixing this red and blue together, and not really exactly what I want. So let me pull up Photoshop here. I don't usually use Photoshop since I tend to work with GIMP a lot more, but I want to create a brand new 512 by 512 pixel canvas here. I don't know what this is. There's some new features, I guess, since it's Photoshop CS. It updates all the time, and I'm a little bit sad. I think they're getting rid of the 3D features, but what I want to do here first is I want to create a new layer, transparent layer, delete the background, just have this transparent layer here. I don't know what this is. I don't know how to get rid of this. How do I get rid of you? Hide. Go away. Now, go back to my filters, and I've got this. It's not, I won't say it's amazing, but it's wonderful for what I need. This plugin is called SolarCell. It's by a company named Flaming Pear. I want to say it was like $20. Can't quite remember exactly, but it's basically set up to create all kinds of different solar flares and suns, and I've gone ahead and saved a preset of my solar spikes and my settings here. So there's a bunch of little buttons that you can click here that let you, it basically stores these little quick settings, and I've saved my preset so I can come back to it. And there's some older settings here that I don't like, that I don't need, but it generates these kind of procedural suns using a number of different settings. You can change how many swirls there are and the distortion and the colors, and I mostly use it for the corona or the halo on the outside of the star, more than I think I would use it for making suns. But the problem being, you can't really animate the properties. As far as I know, I don't think there's an animation feature, but that's okay, because all I really need are these cool rings, and I want to make blue versions. So my color is determined here for the spikes, but I want to set my halo first. The halo is this dark orange, and I'm kind of just going to drag this up here to the blue, kind of a darkish blue. I'll change my halo to a darkish blue, maybe a little bit lighter. And then the spikes here, I want the same kind of thing, sort of the same, slightly lighter blue. Maybe this could be darker, slightly darker. I don't have any flares at the moment because they don't look too amazing. They're kind of like actual flares, points. I just want these little spikes. I might try using a flare, but I can't really get them to grow out and look like a smooth animation, so it's not convenient. That's something I might be able to pull off with Genetica, but I'm just going to use this for now. And right now, it's hard to see the actual colors. It might be a little bit different once I've exported this, but I wonder if I can increase the radius of my halo here. 18. That helps it a little bit. Kind of want it to be more like this blue, but not quite so bright. A bit darker. And then this one will be similarly tealish. It's hard to get it right, get it to look the way I want it to, because it still blends in with itself and turns this weird blue. My sun is supposed to be this beautiful aquamarine color, which I don't think has much effect on the image, but I do want to make that more bluish. I'm going to bring this one up a little bit more. Okay, now I can start to see it. I'm not sure why it's giving me this brown edge now. So I don't work with this particular program too much. It's one of the few tools I use that isn't free. Actually had to purchase this one. It's still nice. I like what it can do. Has some cool options. Kind of keep that darker. So I'll just say I like that for now. Magic select this center part out, and now I've got this weird blue flare. So the first thing I want to do is save this as a PNG, ping bing. We'll go back to my assets folder here, and we'll just say, where was I putting these? Blue flare 1. Now I'll just Control Z 3 times because I don't need to save that. I just need to go back into my program here. And this little spiky thing here, you can rotate where the spikes are. So I can actually, I can store these if I want. Move my spikes around. I want them to be this way, and I think I got to increase this to, no, it was 8. to drag this so that they aren't quite crossing each other, but that they're next to each other. It's a little bit hard to get right. There's no like number entry, unfortunately, which makes it very difficult to be precise because you can't position things using a number. You have to guess. So that's about right. That'll do. So go ahead and click OK. Magic select that one out, or magic wand, and export that one as flare, blue flare 2. I'll Control Z back out, and now I just need the halo without any spikes at all, and that's the easiest one. I'll save that as a blue halo. So I've got all 3 of those. I come back in here. It doesn't look terrible, it's just kind of green. I want to see what I can do with that. Atmosphere, sun, blue. I do need to make new versions of all these, so I gotta replace this, right click and replace with blue halo. So now we have a nice blue glow there. We'll replace this one with blue flare 1, and this one with blue flare 2. So it'll have a different kind of flare than the yellow suns, but it'll still have the same 2 spikes appearing here, 2 spikes appearing here. At least we see that it works. Now we'll see how it looks by swapping it out to atmosphere, sun, blue, and that's way nicer. It's not green, it's not weird colored, it's perfect. A little bit of green blends in with the purple in the background. That's because it's using additive coloring. What did it just do there? Is that because I was moving things around? Yes. Well, that looks pretty nice to me, I think. A couple nice new flares. Got a new blue star. And I will probably do the same thing for red giants. I need a red star. I need to do white ones, red ones, blue ones, probably even purple ones. And all of it's pretty much the same process. I just go through and change all of my colorizers so that everything is the way that I need it to be. So I have to go all the way back inside each of my little branches here just to get to the colors. And it's the same process essentially for each one. I want a darker, like a dark, probably even a purpley, dark purpley red here. Go dark-ish. Getting those dark spots. I'll bring this one back around. There's our slightly brighter red star. It's gonna look crazy, I think. I've never tried making a red one. I want some orange in there. Actually, I probably want the orange closer to the middle, a little bit lighter. Yeah, that's more like it. Reddish orange star. This will have to be brighter orange. Very difficult to guess the colors that I need to use for a red star. I've never done one. That's pretty red. I might want a reference image to check out for red stars, but they won't look anything like the one that I'm making, so I even think the purple that I'm using at the base, I might want that to be more red. They're a little bit too purple. There we go. That's kind of brown. More reddish. More orangish. slightly lighter. And get you closer to yellow. So that's kind of weird. I don't know if I like that. So it's not very defined. Now, you can mess around with the phase of the gradient, which a little bit weird to explain, but as I move through it, it shifts the gradient along the grayscale or the height map of this sun. So kind of want to, that's a little bit more red. That's kind of what I want, closer to what I want. I don't want it to be too yellow. And it's got these dark spots, so let me turn that down just a little bit. Actually turn it up just a little bit. I'll get rid of those dark spots. Let's see what that looks like when it's moving. Red Gianty. It's got a bit of yellow going on. It's kind of an orange giant, I guess, but that would make sense, wouldn't it? So let's go back in here. We'll just readjust these so they have a pinkish, reddish glow to them instead, which will give me this reddish glow around the edge. And then I want to come back in here and change this back to red because I don't want it to be blue. That'll add the red glow along the bottom. I might want it lighter or darker, even purpley, kind of a purplish color. Give it this red blend. And then we'll come back out of there. My backlight's probably just fine. And I've got one more blue atmosphere layer that I'd like to be redder. Reddish and orange. That's harder to see, but it adds a little bit to the upper rounder edge there. Alright, so there's a red star, and I might even be able to use the same flare for this one. Where is my render? There we go. Red star. Okay, well, I can come back and readjust those colors at some point. So come back into my suns folder and we'll just add a red sun folder. Red sun 1. Red sun 1. Ta-da! Back to our sprites here, and if you don't already have one to copy, you can just click this little button here that says add resource and it will create a brand new sprite for you to import. But since I want to use all the settings that I'm already using, you click this copy button here followed by this paste button and you'll just get a duplicate. I've never gone over that in particular detail, but we'll rename it star red 1. We'll go through here, we'll right click and delete these. And we'll go ahead and add our red sun. My red sun, I guess, unless you're doing the same thing I'm doing. And usually we get the double thing going on here. So as before, find the one that has the default positioning stuff set up, delete that one, and everything will be hunky-dory. And I've got a red sun, which I could probably, I'll try it with the Yellow Giant's orange flares. We'll go ahead and grab the red sun. We'll say that it's got a red halo. And then we'll add the atmosphere for the sun. Only we want it to be the big yellow one. So that's a little bit funky because I haven't given it a color yet. I might want it to be orange even. That's a bit crazy. Crazy red. But But that looks kind of cool. Even tinting this red doesn't look terrible, but it could probably look better if I go back and make some red halos. So I'll do that really quick. Bring up my SolarCell. We'll go through and change all these guys to red, 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 and red. I probably don't need to change the sun color. That probably doesn't really matter. Actually, yeah. So now I've got my halo. Magic eraser that. It's pretty red, but that's what I want it to be. Red halo.png, Control Z, Z, Z. We'll go in here and we'll say we want 2 spikies. Now those 2 spikies will be in a weird place, so first we'll do the 8 spikies. We've got this kind of thing going on. I think that matches the red, or the blue star. Save that one as red halo 2 because that's my second halo, and then we'll go back in here. We'll turn that to 2, flip-flop the sides, kind of want it to be more like that, a little bit longer. Quit it. There we go. And red halo 1. I just want to see which one of these looks better. If I use this orangey glow one, it'll blend orange and yellow into my halo. Otherwise, I've just got this red halo. So I'm going to try the red halo. We're going to copy, paste that for sun red. We'll rename it sun red. And replace all of those with each of the red pieces. Red halo there. Looks kind of nice. Place that with a red flare. I don't know why I named them like that. That's flares, not halos. Flare 1. Flare 2. And replace with flare 2. So now this one will play with the red halo and the red flares. Go back over here. Swap this one out for my atmosphere sun red, and we can leave the color at white so that just displays the red. Now the way to fix this here is if I come back into my atmosphere layers here, I don't want the colors to be affected, the flare colors. I just want the halo color to be affected, or the atmosphere color. So it'll leave those as it is. When I change this atmosphere color to something else like orange, I'll still have my red halos, or my red flares. Let me see what happens if I make that deep red. That's actually kind of strange. Make it a deeper orange even. Well, I don't hate it. I don't love the redness. It's super red. But it's distinct. 3 distinct colored stars here. They all blend in together when you drag them around. That's kind of cool. I like that. Very nice. The built-in additive blending in 001. It doesn't seem super powerful, but you can pull off a lot of cool effects. That's how I got the backgrounds blending into each other, how you can see through everything. So now I've got my 3 stars, 3 types of stars. I've also gone ahead and added a little shield animation. I haven't implemented the shield detection or getting hit yet, but right now I want to have this stay on the screen. I'm using an attached sprite. I could attach it to the actor from its properties, but I'm going to use the attached sprite here because I can set this option to rotate with actor so it doesn't rotate with the actor. And that'll be something I've got some kinks to figure out related to animating shield bubbles, and I might actually make those into poses for each of the ships, so they have their own shielding poses. Not sure yet. It might be a clothing layer or sprite layer or something, but when you put on the shield, you just get this cool little bubble effect. It's animated, and it blends in with the background quite nicely, or blends in over everything. It's not set to additive, so there's no mixing of colors or anything, but that lets it stay pretty distinct when you're flying over even things that are similarly colored or almost the same color as the ship itself. So in game, I think the spikes, the little sun spikes, look pretty cool, and the shield bubble's pretty nice. So the shield's a little bit different. What I'm doing with that one, the experiment I was talking about earlier, making the sun into a grayscale sun. So what I'm doing with my bubble, or my shield bubble, so the shield bubble network, it's one of the presets that comes with Genetica, has this little spinning bubble effect going on, and I've kind of connected it to a few things to make it shinier and more like a bubble, so it's white. And 001, what it can do is it can take a black and white graphic and apply color to it. So I want it to be this kind of mid-scale gray to white color, and wherever white is, it's interesting how 001 does it, is white isn't brightened. White is the solid official color. Anything that is white will just be colored normally, and anything lower than white seems to be darkened. In most cases, I'm used to having 255 values of black to gray, and the gray, or black to white, and the mid-gray shows the true color, while white brightens the color. So it's a little bit different in 001. Anything less than white will darken in the coloring layer, or the layer color. So the way that works is I've got my shield bubble here in my effects folder. I'll pull up my shield, and when you import it, it's just black and white, a nice black and white image. You can see the darker areas and all that, and you want to leave this color unaffected box unticked. So it's going to be color layer 1, and wherever this is attached to, like for example where I have this attached sprite event, go back into my control here. There's like a temporary button that I use to test things, but in the attached sprite event, this right here will color layer 1 of the sprite. So wherever you want to change the color of a black and white sprite, it will take on the color that you choose. That also applies to like clothing layers. So any sprite or any actor that's wearing, it's actually probably easier to go into the planets here. The way that these are set up, you can actually change the color of the layer right here, and I could change my atmosphere color. So let's change the atmosphere color to dark blue so it's easy to see. So now the big yellow sun with a blue atmosphere, super ugly, not really great. It hides the spikes, but if I come back into that atmosphere here and turn off the color, or set them to color unaffected, turn off the layer coloring for those will be yellow again, and only the halo will be blue. So that's an interesting effect, but ugly. This kind of makes this purple. I could do a purple star, but it'll only affect the layer that you set to be affected by coloring, and that's what I want. So I'm going to reset my sun's atmosphere halo to yellow, which is for the yellow stars. And for the sprite that's going onto the player as a shield, I could change it to any color, and as long as your sprite is black and white, with white being the value that you want to be the normal color, pretty much in your sprite layers or in your clothing layers where you choose the color, anything that's white will take on this color, and anything darker will be a shaded version of that color. So you can split up your sprites into different layers and colorize them inside 001. You don't actually have to give them color. You know, I could import this step right here and have a colored bubble shield, but since I want to use the built-in coloring system, it has to be black and white. So go back in, take a look at it. And you see now it's red, but it's still clearly defined where the animation is happening, where the shading is. It doesn't darken, or it doesn't lighten, it doesn't get lighter wherever there's white. It gets darker, so that's a useful tip. There's a lot of those examples in the default projects that come with 001, like the RPG, or I think it's the RPG demo, and pretty much anything that comes with any of the built-in assets and stuff. You'll be able to see examples of the layering systems, but there's a lot of them that come with white sprites, and you'd be surprised how well the built-in coloring system works inside 001. So anything that's black and white, you can just tint or color however you want, and that's super useful. So I think that's all for this particular video. Just wanted to get my additional stars in there, show you how I do the halos and some of the animation steps in here. Next time I'll probably be tackling some stuff in the to-do list, adding some of my old interfaces. I would like to add a basic save system to just keep track of my position and other actors on the screen, get that knocked out, and then I'll probably be adding a surface camera interface, which will be another version of the docking menu here, but it'll let me save on some of these stats. I won't have to have any scripting, as they can just retrieve everything from this interface. I'll explain that when I get to it. Everything else is mostly done as far as the basic menus. I do need to finish adding the deploy mechanics for the rover and the probes, which that'll be a whole undertaking in itself, because there's interactivity involved, dialogue screens, talking to things, finding items, looting items, getting damage, crew members dying. There's a whole bunch that will come from having to do that section of the game, but there's a couple little fixes I can cover. But for now, I just wanted to show off some of those animation things for you guys, how to import some animation stuff, a little bit about the animation sequencer. Hopefully that was a bit informative. Check out screamingbrainstudios.com when you get a chance to get all of these free textures and tile sets and tutorials and free stuff. Thank you for watching, you guys. Let me know if there's anything you want to see in one of these videos, and I will do my best to cover it. Until next time.